What is your I don't get paid enough for this crap story? Witness someone's literal I don't get paid enough for this crap story. I was at a showbiz, similar to Chuck E. Cheese, might even be the same place, for a relative's birthday. All the kids are running about having fun, playing games, etc. Suddenly there is a commotion around the ball pit. Turns out some kid has had a serious diarrhea Hershey squirt blowout and it is all over in the ball pit. The little plastic balls are all covered with a thin film of booty butter. I'm across the room from the Code Brown near the counter where you trade in tickets for fake mustaches and Laffy Taffy and crap. The manager tells this teenager he needs to get to the ball pit right away and is trying to hand him a mop. Not sure what a mop will do in this situation, but I digress. Anyhow, the teen is not having it and loudly says, "Nah bro, that ain't me," and strolls out the door and into the sunset. I used to be a case manager for adults with severe mental illness. One day I was meeting with a client in her home. She was experiencing auditory hallucinations that directed her to cut herself. She tells me, "The voices are saying to hurt myself." I say, "Can you ask them to wait until we're done?" She then says, "Now they are telling me to hurt you." She then pulls the slowest ever turn of her head to look down at the table beside her, where I then notice 3 cheapo box cutters are sitting, which is clearly what she's been using on her arm, and then just as slowly looks back at me, all without saying another word. I asked her for the box cutters, which she handed to me, and quickly ended the session. Nope. I was a nurse's assistant a few years ago. I took one of my many patients to the bathroom like any other day. She said she wasn't feeling well, but who feels good in a nursing home? So I'm watching her try to crap, and she turns ghost white and passed out. I yell for help and a nurse and a few other CNAs come to my aid. The lady freaking died. Sudden cardiac arrest. So now we have to carry her dead body to the bed so we can perform CPR. Now I'm sure that you have heard that people who die void their bowels. Well, that is no myth. It's happened to everyone I've watched die and this was no exception. As soon as we picked her up off the toilet, this lady started to do what she died trying to do. Crap like no tomorrow. At this point we realize that this lady has some serious internal bleeding and C. diff. Clostridium difficile. All you need to know about C. diff is that it makes you crap 100 times more than you normally would, and it smells 100 times worse. So here we are, carrying a dead lady by her arms and legs while she spews a sea of smelly orange crap and blood out of her butt and all over the floor. It looked like a scat scene gone wrong. Every inch of the floor covered in blood and rancid fesses. Good news is that we were able to revive the lady and she kept on trucking for who knows how long. I made $9.50 an hour. Minimum wage in my state is $8.50. Frick being a CNA. While I was still in training as an EMT, I got a call for a cardiac arrest. When we arrived, there was a very green looking police officer sitting on the porch who had been called for a welfare check. He started to tell us that we didn't want to go in there, but it was too late. One of the paramedics had already opened the door. As soon as the door was opened, the smell hit us. Inside was the body of the man that lived there, and he had clearly been dead for quite some time. He had melted partially into the couch he was laying on, and what remained of his skin was dark grey. You could also clearly see the bones in his hands. He looked like a horror movie prop, and I have never smelled anything else like it. His neighbors said that they hadn't seen him since January and it was April. Luckily my service doesn't transport bodies. Once we have verified that someone is without a doubt 100% dead, we alert the appropriate authorities and wait for them to arrive and take over. One thing we always have to do on these calls is attach limb leads and run a quick ECG for any sign of life. We have to do it even when it seems ridiculous. I am still not 100% sure if that is an actual rule or if they were freaking with me, because as soon as I finished my certification I got a job somewhere where contact with corpses is unlikely. So as the trainee, of course I had to do it. I am not sure if you have ever tried to put stickers on a rotten corpse, but they do not want to stay in place at all. That is the only call that has ever made me vomit. I don't know about your system or county, but that's insane. Obvious signs of death never require you to run a strip. If someone is rotten, stiff, or blew their head off, there's no reason to prove their heart doesn't have electrical activity. When I was in the Navy, I was a reactor operator. Once, while the power plant was shut down and cooled down, We had to go into the reactor compartment for some routine maintenance and inspections. Inside one of the locked compartments, which had been locked for several months and bombarded with radiation, there was a large spider. A large, living, translucent white spider. I noped the frick out. Sure, make all the Spider-Man jokes you want, but frick everything about large, see-through, irradiated spiders, especially on an E5S pain nope. I was working at a gas station on Halloween. Pretty normal night, a bit more beer than usual, and then I see some kid walk by with his collar pulled up. He's walking a little odd. Then he walks back the way he came, which is a little weird. Then I notice his friends walking up. I am looking at them and I see one is wearing a mask. Then I see a fire extinguisher in his hands. I start moving to the switch that controls the electric locks, but sadly I reached it half a second too late. Two kids hold the doors open and this little crap unloads an entire fire extinguisher into the store. Can't see crap. The entire store is filled with powdery haze. It took 8 hours to clean up. 8 hours closed for a 24-hour gas station. And it turns out, the whole point was to steal an 18 rack of fricking Keystone. Fricking kids. I'm kind of impressed by this plan. I'm not impressed by them not stealing more though. A somewhat mentally deranged person that they had somehow deemed fit for society had to be vacated out of a house that was going to get demolished, and it was my job, and others on my team, to move out what could be saved. We ended up essentially just taking him with us, as nothing could be saved. He had mostly just furniture, which reeked with the most pungent odors that you cannot imagine. Here are some highlights. Important note, I have an iron nose and stomach. I don't really puke unless I'm very sick. 2 of my co-workers immediately puked upon entering his house, and they were unable to enter without puking even after that. Me and my boss had to check out the place ourselves. There was utter junk all over the house. It was very hard to move around. It was mostly newspapers, which leads me to my next point. This guy shat and pee on the fricking floor and covered it with newspapers. The reason why he did this was because his toilet had entirely clogged up, and the high doorstep to the bathroom meant that there was about 2-3 inches of water, pee, diarrhea, and crap. When I initially opened the door to the bathroom, I had to go outside and get air immediately. I ended up gagging and very nearly puking from the concentrated fumes. My boss puked from just walking by the door after I had opened it. After evacuating him to his new place, we immediately washed the entire company car, big Toyota Hiace, because the whole car smelled like Satan's butthole, especially the place he had been sitting. 3 weeks after the incident, after having washed the vehicle 3 times, we could still smell his godforsaken aroma of fetid calamity. We ended up calling in a professional cleaning crew to fix it, as the stench permeated everything. TLDR. I ended up having to vacate Nurgle himself out of his pestilent den of disease, and he near permanently stink bombed our car. Fesses from the warp itself. I manage a supermarket. I was working one night and a customer comes running and saying that there was a brawl outside. I pulled out my phone and rang the police. As I walked outside to assess the situation, I see half a dozen local ferals throwing punches. I start to tell the police what's happening while keeping a safe distance. Then one of the brawlers pulled out a bow and arrow. My thoughts, frick this crap, I'm out. Locked up a crackhead who hadn't showered in months. He had a house with running water and electricity. He just spent all his time getting high instead of maintaining his hygiene. I'll never forget the smell. A mix of crap and body odor. I don't think the guy wiped his butt. My car stunk the minute I put him in it. I rolled all the windows down and drove him to our jail cell. It was freezing outside, but I didn't care. I would have puked everywhere if the windows were up. When I got to our cell, we scrounged up some clothes to give him. His clothes were placed in a biohazard bag and they made me take them outside of the building. That's the first time I've ever seen them throw someone's clothes outside of the building because of how bad they smelled. My car stunk for over a week. I left the back windows down 24/7. No amounts of Lysol, bleach, Clorox could get that smell out of the car. I always pack a lunch and eat in my car. I would have to get out of my car and eat far away from the car or else I'd gag from the odor. There was also the time we found a liquefied body inside a large plastic bin. in the middle of August during a heat wave. I have no idea how long the victim was in the bin, but human soup is a good word to describe what it looked like when we took the lid off. Interesting that a liquefied body is honorable mention compared to how this walking talking guy stank. I drive a tow truck for AAA. Changing tires on major highways is always a blast, but the real fun is having to lay down on those highways while it's pouring down rain to hook cars up. But I think the absolute worst is getting into some people's vehicles. I had a guy tonight who apparently was a hoarder. The car was packed with bags of stuff. The driver's seat was the only thing that was kind of clear. The seat also had stains on it which I'm pretty sure were urine. And the smell. Oh god, the smell. It smelled like human waste mixed with garbage that had been left in the sun with a hint of dog food. I nearly vomited. The worst part was I took this car to a shop and the guy drove with me in my truck. I couldn't get the smell out for the rest of the night. I honestly feel bad for whoever has to work on that car tomorrow. I worked in popular nightclub at the time this happened. It was during a Pride event and we were slammed. Our capacity was 300 and ended up having over 1,000 people come in and out of the club in the 5 hours we were open. Somehow, someone was stabbed by the little coat hanger thing that's on the back of the bathroom stall door. This individual managed to bleed profusely all over the bathroom stall, half of our dance floor, and all over at least 30 individuals within the club, and no one noticed. I'm not kidding when I say that it looked like a dang crime scene. Some serious law and order kind of crap. And yet somehow no one complained about the blood on themselves, the floor, or the bathroom until we turned the lights on. Cleaning up a shitload of semi-dried blood throughout our club after one, if not the, busiest time of the year was wretched. I was exhausted, gagging from the smell of blood, booze, drugs and, most likely, other bodily fluids. After several hours of scrubbing and then getting up a few hours later to work another event, I realized that I hated bar life and needed to get out or double my hourly rate. Unless you had the proper hazmat training and gear, I'm pretty sure it was illegal for your employer to make you do that. I work at a gym. I am only a front desk receptionist. I am a part-timer, also currently in college, getting paid minimum wage. I have been working at my location the longest out of all the other front desk people, so I often, especially on Sundays, open the gym and am there for 6 hours alone without any other employees since that's our slowest day of the week. I come in and open as usual and a lady comes up to me about 30 minutes later. Someone had pooped in the shower in the ladies' locker room and proceeded to try to waffle stomp it down. I was the one that had to clean it. Save my soul. A PT decided to have explosive diarrhea without giving us a warning when we were escorting her back to her room. She was naked so it got all over us. It's 1.5 hours into my shift and in covered in watered down crap and I forgot my extra pair of scrubs at home. In that exact moment I thought I should get at least double my pay. Haha, nursing is so weird. There are some days I'm like, I can't believe how much money they're giving me to do this awesome job, and other days it's like, there is not enough money in the world to take responsibility for this circus. In 2003, I was working at Blockbuster when a customer came up to the register chatting on their phone, which was held between their tilted head and their shoulder, holding a baby in their arms. It's always been frustrating to help people out when they are talking on their phones, but I held my tongue because she was holding a kid and clearly busy. Anyways, she seats the kid right on top of the counter, and immediately, I ask her to continue holding her child or put him on the ground, because the counter isn't a seat. She scoffs because I obviously have no idea how rude it is to interrupt her phone call, and acts like she didn't even hear me. Then I sternly tell her, "Mom, please take your child off of the counter. It's not a seat. Listen, mister, I do this all the time. You'll be fee." The kid falls right off of the counter and hits the floor with a loud thump. A thump that is clearly the sound of his head skull making contact with the tile floor. The whole place suddenly gets completely quiet, and the woman tells the person on the phone I have to go, and puts the phone down. The weird part is that the kid is just totally silent, laying there on the ground. He's still moving, but completely freaking quiet. You'd expect crying or something. It was eerie. She picks the kid up like nothing happened, and continues trying to check out. Meanwhile, The entire store is still embraced by silence, and everyone is looking on with what I'd best describe as concerned horror. I'm kind of in shock at the whole thing that just happened, and the lady starts clearing her throat at me, implying that I need to check out her items so she can be on her way. Like I'm just supposed to completely ignore the fact that her infant child just smashed his head on the tile, and that there are more important things to be taken care of. Suddenly, the kid just starts projectile vomiting pure black all over the place. All over his mom's shirt, the floor, the counter, etc. I jump back and say you need to take him to the hospital. Everyone is gasping and speechless at the sight they are beholding. Loudly, I proclaim, right now. She starts scurrying to pick up all of her movies, and I yell hospital, leave right now, so she just ditches her movies and runs out the door to her car. Over the span of the entire interaction, everyone in the building, including my manager, had stopped what they were doing to turn their focus to the lady, her child, and myself. I remember telling my manager that I wasn't going to be cleaning that up, and she closed the store early and let us go home for the night. The memory of that night is still burned into my mind. I always wonder what happened to that kid. Jesus Christ. TL. DR. Rude moron gives her baby brain damage, or kills him, or something, and I will remember it forever. Crying is a very good indicator. Not crying after a baby gets hurt is usually very bad. Standing in a freezer, scooping ice cream into hundreds of martini glasses. The banquets were usually around 500-900, with nothing but a couple pairs of flimsy disposable gloves on, only to have the pastry chef say the balls weren't round enough and to do it all fricking again. I was pissed. That reminds me of when I was working the Ben & Jerry's free scoop days. They would package the ice cream in a huge cardboard box which would melt all over everything during the course of the day. You couldn't clean anything up because there were so many people wanting their free ice cream, and I am lactose intolerant, so I couldn't even lick it off my fingers. Used to be a conductor on a wine train, and there were always white divorcees going out with their girlfriends who'd get a little too drunk and get belligerent. One night they tried to assault a Sikh man for doing 9/11, and I had to intervene to keep these 5 drunk women from killing this man. Used to work retail security. Got threatened by a junkie with a dirty needle over a friend's box set. That was my last day. Clap 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 clap. I stayed up overnight with my bosses to prepare for CES, Consumer Electronics Trade Show in Vegas, world's largest trade show. Caught the plane in the morning, got a short night of sleep after over 40 hours of being awake, woke back up, spent an entire day preparing our booth presentation of our hardware and software for the week. As it got into the morning hours, it became apparent that our crap wasn't going to work, so I stayed up another night trying to cobble our software together. Our demo didn't work when we arrived at the booth, and I was behind a curtain editing code on 2 laptops trying to get the crap up. After another 30 hours of no sleep, was sent back in the afternoon after I finally got something working. Averaged about 5 hours of sleep the next 3 nights. I knew it was a stupid waste of time even then, but looking back on it, I realize how shamefully dumb the whole thing was. Age 16. Babysitting. For lack of a better word, a 12-year-old girl from 5 PM till around 3 AM. She spent 8 of those 10 hours trying to kiss cuddle me. Yeah, no. 16 watching a 12-yo. That's like a horse watching a dog. Hi, I have plenty. I work as a hospital cleaner. Split colostomy. SP. Bags. Literally crap everywhere in a toilet cubicle. I was relatively new on the job, but my supervisor said I could have the extra 15 minutes pay because I was early if I did it, so I was all woo extra £1.50. It really was not worth it. If I could go back, if someone offered me £20 I wouldn't do it. I honestly have never gone through that many gloves, cloths, aprons as I had that day. The smell haunted my nose for the rest of the shift. Poor man woman though, can't blame them. I can blame my supervisor though. I spent the majority of my shift yesterday scrubbing the edges of a corridor on my hands and knees with a brush because no one has time to teach me to use the buffing machine. Bags split all the time, leaving a nice trail of tea or coffee across your floor. Usually this tends to happen when you have just finished mopping. Sanitary towels, tampons, crappy toilet paper always turns up in the most unusual places like windowsills and the like. Someone always steals my freaking vacuum. God damn it. Also, we never seem to have any of the correct stock, so we get yelled at for not doing something when we physically can't. So annoying. As a teen, I was working with the youth group from my church to help raise money for a trip. This guy had us over to his farm to do some work. Fair enough. We get there and he has us clean out his chicken coops. Most of the rooms were at least 6 inches deep in poop, while the average was probably closer to 10 inches, and some of the corners got up to about 1.5 feet. Buried in this poop were dead chickens, as well as several dead cats that had gone missing. It was a terrible, much more death-filled morning than I was anticipating. There were probably 7 or 8 of us there for half a day, and while I don't know the number, the guy probably didn't pay us more than $100, so like $3 an hour per person. No way your supervisor should have let that continue. Huge health risk and pretty fricked up. Was earning minimum wage for working in a claims call center for a health insurance company. I was called regarding a query on a claim where the person owed a certain amount of money to a psychiatric hospital for overstaying in the facility when he capped out the amount his insurance allowed. He was not happy about this. He proceeded to berate and belittle me for 45 minutes. Then put his wife on the phone, who told me in horrific detail how he tried to kill himself and why he needed to stay in the facility. It was gory. It was gruesome. And I still think about what she told me sometimes. At the end of the phone call, I went and locked myself in the bathroom and cried. It was then I decided that job was no longer worth it, especially on the money I was on. I stuck it out for a bit longer and then moved abroad. Best decision I ever made. A few. Security officer. I got into a fist fight with a truck driver because I took too long to make a copy of his paperwork so that he could leave. Copier was inside the building across the plant. This wasn't the only time, but this was the one where I was legit helping the guy. Butcher shop. I had a co-worker start acting like freaking G.I. Joe while we were trying to close the department, rolling between aisles and making actions and audible noises like he was mowing people down with an LMG. He didn't do anything and we got out 50 minutes late because I had to go back and do all of his stuff. Roofing. At $10 an hour. Pretty much everything. Pest extermination. When your co-worker kicks the hive of yellow jackets and neither of you are licensed to use the kill powder. So your squirrel job just turned into calling the boss to get him to take care of the itch problem. Every few days. Inbound call center. They call us for help, being told I'm worthless and useless and how much better his son is than I am because I wouldn't pay for a 300-mile taxi ride for his retarded kid that was drunk driving. Wasn't even my department, and it was my supervisor that actually transferred the douche to me while I was telling him that he needed to talk to the correct department. Roofing. At $10 an hour. Pretty much everything. I never understood why roofers are known in the trades as the drunkest, most drugged up bunch of individuals out there until I shingled a roof in 35°C weather with a humidex somewhere up around breathing soup. That crap would drive me to drink too. While in my probation as a police officer, I was on guard of a prisoner under arrest who had been paid to swallow around 20 wraps of C in order to catch a flight and export them to another country. He handed himself into the A&E department at the hospital as he realized that if one of them broke out of its cling film wrap he would die. Hence the police were called and he was placed under arrest. He had been there for a day or two before I attended and had been given some enemas to try help him crap the things out. We guarded and watched him all night. I was looking forward to going home and crawling into bed. The next crew were due to come any moment to relieve us. And then, our offender wakes up and proudly proclaims, "Officers, I'm ready." Me. Sorry, what? Offender, I'm ready for you. Me. What do you mean? Offender, I'm ready to go to the toilet for you. Me. Can you not wait just 5 minutes? Offender, nope. I really need to go right now. The nurse brings along a cardboard commode for him to crap into. I have to stand there, watching a grown man crap into this cardboard. After a few minutes he was finished and I went with the nurse and the commode into a nearby side room and closed the door. I look at the nurse and she looks at me. I ask, well, are you going to fish the wraps out? She seemed amused and replies, nope, it's not my job. If you want them then you've got to do it, otherwise I'll just throw it out. With no other option I put on 2 pairs of latex gloves, Tried as best I could to hide my nose under my shirt to keep out some of the smell, and for the next few minutes I was searching and picking through a grown man's crap with a plastic toothpick-like implement the nurse had given me. I fished out several wraps, had to wash them in a sink and then put them into a beaker. When I opened the door back into the corridor, there was a whole line of the nurses from the whole department outside giggling and micro-humor. Apparently they found it hilarious listening to a police officer repeatedly make gagging noises for ages knowing full well what I was having to do. Oh, and our early turn relief was there too laughing. Apparently they turned up just as I went into the room, but when they found out I was a probationer said that they wouldn't take over until I finished as I was a newbie. I don't remember in my police application form them mentioning in the job description that I'd have to physically look through fresh warm human crap and then wash and bottle its contents. Now that I think about it, I can't believe people think C is a glamorous drug. I worked in a juvenile prison for a while. I was in a classroom with some of the kids, basically babysitting until they went back to their cells. There was a CO who was getting under their skin, and I wouldn't let them go out into the corridor to antagonize her. One of the kids pulled his dong out in protest and let rip all over a table full of files and classwork so it all melted in a pool of papery pee. Also care packages full of crap being dropped out of cell windows. Thankfully not at me. Actually just the smell when you go into a prison block at 8 AM just after the entire population of that block has woken up and simultaneously taken their morning dump is I don't get paid enough for this crap story. In other news, I lived with a nurse when I was in college. She was doing a placement working with elderly people in a care home. One day she came home and told me that she had to help an elderly lady go to the toilet. The lady fell off the toilet mid-crap and sprayed it up the walls and all over my friend. My friend then projectile vomited on the lady, who projectile vomited right back at her. The lady fell off the toilet mid-crap and sprayed it up the walls and all over my friend. My friend then projectile vomited on the lady, who projectile vomited right back at her. This sounds like something straight out of Family Guy. Working at a private school, teaching a prep K class with no benefits, no prep time, coming in on evenings and weekends to catch up on work, not being given the full set of training manuals for their special technique I needed to follow and wasn't well versed in, dealing with entitled parents who actually used the phrases I pay good money, I pay your salary, and I am the customer, and a clueless, powerless, incompetent administration who had no actual power over the running of the school and who didn't understand why I'd want to call social services when a child disclosed abuse. All this for less than half of what the public school teachers make in my city. I definitely didn't get paid enough for that crap. Worked at a high-scale dog kennel during HS. It wasn't the literal piles of crap I had to deal with daily. It was the weird empty nest pet parents. The kind of people that wish each other happy Mother's Day for being fur parents. The people that carry their pets around like fashion accessories. The animals were actually kind of fun to deal with. I got paid minimum wage to play with dogs and cats. A little crap here or there was a fair trade-off. Anyway, I grew accustomed to the owners giving food and walk specifications. Some of the nicer kennels even had webcams so the owners, not calling them pet parents, could check in on them. This one lady wrote in the specifics that her pug must be read a bedtime story every night. I didn't pay attention and one night she called my boss absolutely livid that her dog didn't have a bedtime story, demanded her stay calmed, I lose my job, etc. Boss called me in. He told me what was wrong, and that he needed me to go to the drugstore and pick out a book to read to this lady's pug. His look told me even he knew this was bulls. Not sure what happened after that didn't come back. Generally I have a 40-hour work week. Had done my 40 hours by end of Thursday. Had previously gotten the okay from my boss to leave 2 hours earlier on Friday. On Friday, 1 hour before I left sales department immediately required some crap done which can only be done by me. Boss kindly asked me to complete this task. Completed the task but sat idle 3 hours longer than planned. +1 instead of -2. Completed the task and sent data to sales. Switched off PC and company phone and went for the weekend. Was shat on by director of sales on Monday morning because I was not available to answer some questions he had concerning the submitted data when he finally reviewed it roughly 1 hour after I had left work. Been there, Had an emergency come up at 4 on a Friday after I'd been well over 40 hours that week already. Got stuck working until 8:30 trying to get the problem solved and all the documentation for it done because the execs at customer were adamant about it being fixed right then. This happened during one of my internships at a veterinary hospital. No pay. I was helping restrain a dog when she got away from us. She had diarrhea and she decided to run around the hospital while exploding out her back end. Guess who had to clean that up? If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.